Should I clean this worktop before starting? Yes. Am I going to? No. Hi! Today I'm going to be attempting to make some shelves to go with that little room setup that I had at the end of the last video. Just a quick thing. If you want to know how to make the sofa that was in the end of that video, I followed my Froggy Stuff tutorial. I think the video was called something like DIY couch under $5. She used felt and I used this sort of very squishy fabric that I bought from IKEA. I might be able to show you what it looks like on their website, but that was the vibe I wanted and the color I wanted, so that's the only thing I did differently. Today, the shelves that I want to make are kind of Mediterranean in style. I will insert some pictures here from Pinterest for what I am going for, and in order to get that look, what I'm going to do is use a cardboard base and then coat it in paper clay, which is kind of like paper mache or papier-mâché as we called it at school, but with extra steps, I would say. And I am going to show you how to make that. Disclaimer, I have not made paper clay before. However, I've been Googling and I think I have figured it out. So, depending on how this goes, that will determine whether you're seeing this video or not. So if you're here, it probably means that it worked. As a lot of you probably already know, I am big into recycling whatever I can for these crafts. So what we've started off with here is a big pile of old scrap paper that I have just torn up into lots of little bits. Just reuse as much paper as you can find, tear it up into little pieces, and then I have a container here. It's actually like a storage box. It has a lid that fits on top, which I thought would be good if I need to keep this for any length of time without it drying out. I'm just going to put that to one side for a second. The main thing you're going to add to your paper is water. And in addition to the water, you're also going to need some craft glue. PVA is what I have. It seems to be what a lot of people use. And I was not aware of this until after my research, but a lot of people also use some flour. This is just plain regular flour. A lot of people also have like a specific thing that they add. It's some kind of polymer medium. I don't know what that is or where to get that. And this is what I have. So it's what we will be using as a stand-in. So the first thing I'm going to do is pour some water into our container of paper and let it kind of soak until it's sort of become a pulpy, wet mess, basically. Now we have our paper smushed down and covered in water. It's just just like covering the paper. From what I have read, you can use boiling water for this. The useful thing about using hot water is that it doesn't take as long to become pulp. However, because I'm using cold water, I'm going to leave this for a few hours for the water to just help the paper all break down. While we are waiting for our paper to pulpify, I'm going to work on the base for our shelves. The first thing I'm going to do is find out how large these shelves need to be. So I have here a shelf from, I think, Barbie Mycene. So obviously it is intended for Barbie. I am making this for Barbie, or at least 1/6 scale. So I'm going to measure, well, I have already measured this, and I'm going to use those measurements for our shelf. I just used my tape measure and found that it was about 12 inches tall and 7 wide. What I have here is some sturdy cardboard that I have recycled. It's 12 inches upward and cut, and then 7 across. And when I get to the 7 mark, I am just going to bend it. As you can see, I have already scored this in preparation. Now, I've decided that my shelves should be about 3 inches deep. So again, I just measured across here and then bent again. Measured another 7 inches along. You can see I kind of messed up with my scoring here, but it is this line. And then I just bend there, and then obviously another 3 inches, and then I cut. We bend on all of those lines, which is obviously quite nice and easy because cardboard already has ridges in it. And now we have a box. What I'm going to do next is unfold it, and I'm going to basically draw a rectangle in the center of our first panel. I'm going to say 1.5 centimeters. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to do that measurement all around the outside, and then we'll join them up. And I have my little rotary cutter here, and we're just going to cut along the lines. Now we have all our lines cut, and we just pop that center piece out carefully so we don't bend the cardboard. And I had to do that off camera because it was not cooperating. We're just going to fold on the lines that we've already scored, and we have the beginnings of our shelving unit. Bearing in mind that this is all going to be covered in paper clay eventually, it doesn't have to look super perfect or anything, as you can tell. So I'm going to use tape to secure along this join here. As you saw at the end there, I've also added a thin line of glue just in these gaps between the tape, just as an extra layer of protection. And I've also done one on the inside. It's clear so you can't see it, but it's there, I promise. While we wait for the glue to dry on our cardboard, let's get back to our paper clay. This has been soaking in the water for quite a few hours now. So let's open it up and have a look. So we've got this very pulpy paper, and luckily it is all disintegrated nicely. Any larger pieces I'm gonna go through and just break apart with my fingers. The general consensus is that you should use a hand blender. I think that's, I don't know what they're called. But I don't have one, so I am just going to rely on pulling the paper apart into lots of tiny little bits, and I'll be back when that is finished. Not gonna lie, that took a while and was kind of gross. But we have it all broken up into tiny little pieces now, and we're going to kind of collect as much of the pulp as we can. And the texture's questionable. It's not great, but we're going to collect as much of this pulp as we can and squeeze the excess water out into our container.
Ugh. Brother, ugh. What's that?
Okay, I have strained out the excess water and just gonna crumble up the ball of paper we made. Fingers crossed that this is the right texture, and we'll move on to the next step. Now, as I understand, there is a kind of golden ratio for this, but I am just going to kind of eyeball this until just adding the other ingredients until it becomes the texture that looks and feels good for what I'm going to use it for. And we're just going to pour in a decent amount. Okay, that kind of looks good. Our flour. And we'll see how that does. Okay, low key, we have clay already, but it is probably not enough, and also it is pretty lumpy. So we're gonna just keep adding flour and glue to see if we can smooth it out. Okay, here we have our ball of paper clay, and fingers crossed this is the right consistency. I could probably afford to make it a little bit less wet. However, I have joint problems, to be perfectly honest. So it kind of hurts my fingers to work with stiffer clay. So I am just going to leave it like it is. If you wanted a firmer consistency, you could add more flour or I guess more paper pulp. And yeah, I'm just going to set this aside in our sealed container while we finish making our frame. The next thing we're going to be doing with our frame is figuring out where to put the shelves. So, we have this excess cardboard that we cut off earlier, and obviously the size of the shelf is going to be the 3-inch across and then 7-inch down measurement. And then theoretically, that should slot quite nicely in and just fit, and then the tension will hold it quite nicely. So that's 7. And then that's 3. Going to draw a rectangle to those marks we've made and then cut it out. So we have our first shelf here, and I'm just going to see how well it fits in our frame. There may need to be some trimming. That actually went better than expected. Like I said, we do have some good tension there holding it in, but it has slightly warped these edges, which makes me think it does need a little bit of trimming. So I'm just going to do that. Okay, we're back and we're just gonna see how well this fits now. Okay, I think that's pretty good. The tension isn't quite as strong, so I'll probably have to add some glue, but I think we have a fit. So now I'm going to take this out and use it as a template to cut the other shelves. Okay, then repeat that for as many shelves as you want in your unit. I went for 3 shelves. They're all in there quite nicely and the tension is keeping them in place. I am going to add some glue just along these seams here, just for my own peace of mind. And yeah, we are good to go. So for this next part, we're going to be using some scrap card and paperboard. What we're going to do with this is curve it into some interesting shapes, hence why it needs to be thinner than the cardboard. So I'll insert some reference pics and hopefully you can see what I mean now about filling up the shelves that we've made with shapes that we can then mold the clay around. I'm going to get our shelving. I'm going to measure the space, the maximum height that our shapes can be. So that's about 7.5 centimeters for me. So I'll just use this card first and measure 7.5 from a straight edge. There we go. And then I also want to know what depth it can be. Measure from the outside actually. That is, oh wow, that's also 7.5. That is very useful. Because I want this first one to be a curve shape or like an archway, I'm going to double the 7.5 measurement, and that's 15. So the exact length of my ruler, which is very useful. 7.5 and then 15. And then cut this out. And then, of course, we'll just have to manipulate it a little bit so that we have a sort of curved archway shape. And fingers crossed, this will fit nicely in here like so. It may have been wise to add some tabs so that I would have something to glue. So I may cut another piece that includes the tabs. Okay, now we have our archway plus tabs. And again, we're just going to curve that until it bends quite nice and willingly. Now, again, these are supposed to be quite nice organic shapes, so it doesn't have to be, you know, the most perfect arch you've ever seen. And I am just going to use some double-sided tape to affix it to the inside of my shelf. So now all we're going to do is fill up the rest of these shelves with other abstract kind of shapes. Now that we have our shelves all filled up with shapes, the next thing I'm going to do is use some papery sort of tape. I'm going to use washi tape. You could also use masking tape or painter's tape, something along those lines. And I'm just going to use it to sort of create a little skeleton between these gaps for the clay to hold on to. Now we have our gaps all filled with tape, and they don't have to be super neat or anything because they're all going to be covered with clay. And the next step is doing exactly that. Okay, we're back now with our shelves all covered in paper clay. I have let this dry overnight, so it is now very nice and solid. And the only problem is that there are some imperfections and some roughness, which is honestly better than I was expecting. But I am just going to sand those down quickly and be right back. Now that we are all sanded, I just want to make a quick note of something I forgot, and that is that I actually left the back of our box as well as the base blank, which is to say without clay. And that's just because I want to be assured that it will stand straight and also sit flush against walls. And on this small scale, any amount of bumpiness could make it a little bit wobbly or just leave gaps that I don't want. I have also left the inside of the shelves blank. That was more by accident than design because I ran out of clay. So I have just smoothed the seams out with the last little bit of clay, and hopefully painting them will make it look nice and uniform and it won't be too noticeable. Okay, and we are done. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, I would very much appreciate a like or subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!